Hello guys, welcome back. I know I could have easily made the title for this video, I bought Mulan for $30 so you didn't have to, or something like that, but I honestly feel like that would have been dishonest to myself, because, well, I want you motherfuckers to buy this for $30. I want you to be subjected to the same character arc I went through. I went and bought this movie for $30 on top of the $6.99 I pay monthly to this Disney Plus service because I was feeling empowered. I wanted to throw money at a movie with an all-Asian cast because what an exciting concept. And that's not the movie's problem, by the way. The representation of it all is not the issue. Being an Asian American man and seeing people that look like me in high-budget film under one of the biggest movie studios in the entire world is damn exciting. So no, that part wasn't the issue I had. I came into buying Mulan with the intent that I was supporting something that could potentially be seen as underrated at least, or culturally nuanced with a strong message that differentiates itself from the original. Well, before I dive deeper, I'll take this moment to remind you to like this video at the end if you enjoyed, and to also hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that YouTube can tell you 14 hours later that my video just went live. I mean, come on YouTube, what are you, drunk? I really do appreciate all the comments as well in my past videos, and I do my best to reply and always love having a conversation below to discuss more, so leave a comment on whether you agreed or disagreed, and most of all, I hope you had enough fun to want to stick around more, so thank you. Now let's go back to the video. Mulan was disappointing. There, I said it. I really went in high and mighty thinking people were overreacting about how bad this movie was, and while it isn't the worst thing I've seen this year, it's far more disappointing due to how much it meant or could have meant. Was the trajectory of Asian representation in big budget films in America riding on the success of this film? Possibly, but with all the future projects lined up with Asian actors and actresses in lead roles, I would argue against it. However, I am probably not in the minority when I say that the impact of the original film was so incredible that even as adults, whether you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic, cat, dog, etc., we can all sing along to most of the songs in this movie, and we all know how much of a goddamn queen Mulan is, and she's the only damn Disney princess who can say she fought in a damn war and saved an entire country with her wits and courage. I mean, I can barely finish a video game, let alone save a country. I say all of this because take that story and imagine it on the big screen. Like, how can you screw that up? You can almost frame for frame imagine how epic that would be. So, what happened in this movie? Why does it fail to live up to the original and make a name for itself? Well, I'll start with the obvious, which within the first 10 minutes of the movie you will quickly realize yourself. Also guys, there are going to be obvious spoilers, so feel free to pause the video and go purchase Mulan for $30, and then after watching, come back here. Guys, where'd you go? Ah, shit. Scared them off. I knew this would happen. Alright, just me then? Alright, it's just like my 10th birthday all over. As far as I'm concerned, Mulan from 1998 moves along at a brisk pace, allowing the audience to understand the loving nature of our protagonist, as well as the strong will and uncertainty she has towards what society expects of her versus what her will compels her to do. We see that although her family loves her and pushes her towards marriage as a way of maintaining honor within the family, they all see that she's not the standard idea of what a woman is at that time. Not because Mulan draws attention to it, but because through her actions we understand she's far from graceful, but she loves her family and goes through the motions to appease them. We like Mulan because, well, like most Asian kids can relate, we tend to follow the path that our parents set for us because we don't want to disappoint them and we know they do it in our best interest. The great thing about Mulan though is that she speaks for her inner voice. For every kid who was told they needed to be a doctor when they wanted to actually be a director or a magician, Mulan was sort of that character we could lean on since she was relatable. Not inherently talented, not poised or well-spoken most of the time, but courageous and clever enough to speak and act on what she believes is right. Juxtapose that against 2020's Mulan, and we get essentially the same character traits as the original that feel almost projected onto this new iteration of the character. Sharing vaguely some of the same dialogue as the original, it feels as if the director, Nikki Caro, feels that it's necessary to copy the original in the setup of Mulan, but something's lacking. It's what many call the underdog quality. Because for some reason, Mulan is fucking Spider-Man in this movie. Sorry, Spider-Woman. In the first 10 minutes of the movie, we see a young Mulan who flawlessly Chow Yun-Fats her way across rooftops and superhero lands in the middle of a town, leading us, the audience, to go, what the fuck? Why is she superhuman? You see, one challenge that many writers for characters like Superman often come across is making him relatable to the average reader. Sure, it's cool to see your protagonists use their gifts and abilities to conquer evil, but every now and then you have to depower them or pit them against a challenge that has them question their very being. For example, Kryptonite is Superman's, and any stock image in your newly bought picture frame is Batman's. The thing that made Mulan's story so enticing was that she was just a young woman who had no exceptional fighting skills, entering a war disguised as a man at the risk of persecution or even death. She had the heart to protect her father and uphold the family name. You see, her overcoming the societal expectations of women at the time in China and also the thought of death or dishonoring the family name was enough stacked against Mulan, on top of her not being formally trained. What she had was her ingenuity and her sheer will. That's what makes her impressive, not her chi or whatever the hell they're trying to sell in this movie, which leads to my next point. Chi, or Chi, is essentially the pseudoscientific vital life force that resonates off of any living thing. While the practices of channeling one's Chi and its abilities to be manipulated for healing purposes rather than the use of modern medicine has been widely criticized, its philosophical roots are often more widely favored, especially in many forms of media or writing that are heavily influenced by East Asian cultures such as Avatar: The Last Airbender or Dragon Ball Evolution.
The final level of airbending technique is the Kamehameha.
Yeah, my grandpa told me about that.
To master the Kamehameha, you have to master your ki.
Or even Star Wars. I mean, the Force?
Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
So, Chi is not a concept that is new to filmmakers. It's often used at their disposal to explain some untapped potential for a character. But what this movie does with Chi is introduce it as the force which Mulan has buckets of apparently, which lends to why she's so exceptional at fighting at a young age. However, they poorly use this concept and leave us wondering what are the limits of what Chi can do in this story. That begs the question, why is it even in the movie? In Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, we don't need to understand why the characters can float around on rooftops and perform physically impossible feats. We understand that it's an artistic choice. So, in conclusion, I don't think that introducing Chi was necessary for these two reasons. First, it gives our protagonist extraordinary abilities that make her harder to root for since she already has a physical advantage, and the second reason, in the original, she gets to improve and work her way to the top amongst her own comrades, while in this one, she kind of has an ace in the hole that she knows she can use at any time. That makes her cinematic climb to the top of the mountain much less meaningful. It was also why the iconic song "I'll Make a Man Out of You" served a narrative purpose as well as being catchy. That 3-minute song / montage does a better job of establishing character growth and relationships than the entire 30 to 40 minutes spent at the camp in the new film. Essentially, Chi was unnecessary to the story since even the writers didn't seem to know what to do with it. No transition there, just me about to complain about the pacing of this movie. I absolutely hated how quick this movie moved while at the same time feeling longer than the original. I don't know how you can accomplish that, but my guess was that while this movie moves along quickly from scene to scene, it doesn't have music to accompany, making the scenes feel weightless in comparison. Music as a form of letting us in on character motivation and introducing us to the story or the stakes are as much ingrained in what makes 1998's Mulan memorable. Honor to Us All and Reflection are songs that show us why Mulan doesn't quite fit within the society she was brought up in. Not because she doesn't look like everyone else or because she's physically stronger than everyone else. It's because she simply questions the status quo. Nothing crazy. So when you take away these songs that serve a narrative purpose, you just get the scenes that follow those musical numbers and it loses its punch in the end. This makes the movie feel like it's moving scene to scene rapidly because those parts were cut out. Instead, we get a young parkour Mulan doing insane shit that honestly anyone at the time would be impressed the hell out of. I was hoping that with the remake we would get more moments of the family showing their affection for one another. They even add a sister to the story that has absolutely nothing to do, and I mean, I forgot she was in it. At the end when she popped up, I honestly was confused for a second. This poor pacing, I think, is most largely due to the writers and director feeling that they needed to reinvent the wheel while also appeasing the fans. They wanted to give us our old Mulan, but they wanted to take in the direction of the Kung Fu period piece epics like Hero or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Instead, what we get is a movie that is muddled with the what if instead of blank, we blanked instead, with no reason why they changed it other than they needed it to be different than the original to justify them remaking it. In other words, Mulan baby! Now, with what I said about the creators of this movie unable to understand why chi was necessary to the story, I mentioned that it probably came out of the necessity to switch things up for the illusion of change. Well, if you remember the wonderful supporting characters from the original film like Qian Po, Yao, Ling, and the cricket, do you remember their distinguishing characteristics? That aside from them visually being different, by the end of the movie you could definitely describe them to your friends. Well, in Mulan 2020, for the life of me, I could not tell you what makes their live-action counterparts alike in any way. Now, keep in mind, I don't mind them taking creative liberty with these characters, such as changing their personality slightly or adding some story to these individuals. However, that's not what Mulan 2020 does. Instead, we get the same characters in name only, including the addition of a character named Cricket, which... For the love of God almighty, I hope they didn't actually try and turn the fucking cricket from the original movie into a real goddamn person. I know they didn't try to pawn off Qian Po's personality on this cricket character and then, spoilers, set him up to die only to make it a fake out when it would have been at least one emotional scene in the entire movie. Oh my god, they did! Now, for you Justice for Mushu people out there, I hear you. I was there too when they started production on this movie. Love him or hate him, Mushu was at least a good guardian that made porridge for Mulan and delivered constructive and passive-aggressive criticism to her and overall had a character arc. In Mulan 2020, instead of a talking dragon voiced by Eddie Murphy, which while saying it out loud sounds insane, they instead replace him with a phoenix. Yeah, pretty cool, right? I mean, a phoenix as a protector for our main protagonist? Haven't seen that one before.
You were brilliant, Fox. I just wasn't quick enough.
Dishonor on your whole family!
Jokes aside, it could have been pretty fucking cool to see a phoenix whooping ass or at least acting as a silent guide for Mulan through her adjusting to life amongst these men amidst a war. I would even think that having the phoenix voiced by Ming-Na Wen would have been an idea I personally would have loved. Instead, we get the laziest fucking guardian I have ever seen. This phoenix is like that babysitter you hire for your kids on date night, but instead of watching your kid, she invites her boyfriend over and leaves the stove on and lets your kid drink a Pepsi before bedtime. I mean, f that bird. Anyways, speaking of bird, even the hawk from the original movie gets to be a human. Yes, the cricket and the hawk. It's a good year to be an animal sidekick. Think of him as the emo Iago, in case you forgot. Menacing, but not an inherently important character. So, I will give credit to the movie for attempting to take existing characters and recontextualizing them. I'll also give them credit for casting Hong Kong cinema legend Gong Li as a secondary villain that can transform into a hawk, and trying to parallel her character against the protagonist Mulan. That being said, the parallels begin and end where they're both females trying to succeed in a man's world during that period. That's it. It was something potentially great that was executed extremely poorly. Throughout the movie, she appears in front of Mulan as sort of this temptation towards the dark side, in case you thought there wasn't enough Star Wars references in this video. A more compelling angle would be to have her lead the Roaring Army instead of Bori Khan, which I'll add to the movie's credit, is surprisingly more accurate to the folktale than the use of the Han Army in the original 1998 movie, so... good job, guys? Anyways, as I was watching, I couldn't help but think how much better it would have been to see Gong Li Jianling lead the Roaring Army after usurping Bori Khan. This being paralleled against Mulan's training would have added a nice touch. It also would have subverted some expectations in a fulfilling and interesting way, as well as making her inevitable death much more impactful. If we started the movie showing how Mulan's upbringing was idyllic versus how oppressed Jianling's was, her being constantly outcast as a witch like she mentions in the film, it would have made her exit a lot more tragic. In the film, Jianling takes an arrow to save Mulan, and in the movie it doesn't have any emotional impact because we don't get to understand who she is. She only sort of tells us. Now I'm sure better writers than me could have roped in her sacrifice into my version of the story, so I'll leave it up to your imagination, but imagine how much more fulfilling that would have been. Just me? Just me? Alright, let's talk about romantic interests. This is gonna be brief, but why wasn't he Li Shang? No reason he couldn't have been Li Shang. Absolutely no reason besides wanting Daddy Donnie Yen in the movie. That's it. I think I'm done. I could keep going, but it's Li Shang. One of the last points I want to make is the lack of music and how horribly the action was shot. I remember during production hearing whispers of the film score being orchestral versions of the original. For some reason, I really dug that idea. I bought into the idea of swelling action sequences having familiar tunes humming and then ascending into a typhoon of strings and bass, giving us a soundtrack that we could be excited to buy on CD, vinyl, or accidentally stumble on Disney Spotify playlists. Disappointingly, the soundtrack for this movie almost seems shy to acknowledge it used to be an animated Disney musical. The thing is, that would be fine if the story wasn't also beat for beat the original, so why not just use the music? I get for the realism they didn't want these warriors to be busting out in song, but why do we only get a faint hint of reflection played once about halfway into the movie during the first battle against the Roaring Army? Thematically, the song doesn't quite fit at this moment since it's supposed to be a song that represents Mulan's doubt and insecurity. It's literally her self-reflection. Her riding into battle kicking spears into people's chests while thinking of Christina Aguilera is just very strange as an audience. So for how much they want to ride the original film's coattails, seeing how little they cared to integrate the music into this one felt almost petty. However, I don't know why these decisions were made, but I imagine I'm not the only one that feels like an opportunity was wasted. So overall, no shade against the film's composer Harry Gregson Williams, but looking at his track record, I'm not surprised by how forgettable this soundtrack was. Wait, he did Shrek? Oh shit. I take everything I have ever said back. He is a god. No, I'm serious. I'm not even being ironic. Shrek is legitimately good. But fuck it, that's a different video. Back to the music. Harry Greg's, I'm not gonna say the whole thing. His score is forgettable. But the one other thing about this movie I cannot forgive is how ball-bustingly disappointing the action was shot in this movie. I mean, what is going on here? I didn't even edit this. This is in the final movie. If you don't find that to be excruciating to follow, then please show me which master you serve. I'm not afraid to abandon my life right now and follow whoever you worship that has bestowed you with the patience and grace I can never attain in this lifetime. This editing is horseshit. Now, take note that I am saying the shooting and editing for the action is bad. The choreography, on the other hand, I'm willing to bet was masterfully put together by the stunt team behind this movie. From what I could follow, these men and women put together some beautiful fight sequences that seemed meticulously crafted, but one of you sons of bitches massacred my boy. However, I understand how much goes into a film like this. In fact, I'd redact that and say I probably only know just the surface of what goes into a film like this. So, amidst all that goes behind the scenes, such as getting decent coverage through second unit directors and such, perhaps the actors and actresses were not equipped to do all their stunt work, so edits had to be made to disguise it. Or maybe they legitimately thought this looked good. Either way, I think the potential this movie had to be on par with films like House of Flying Daggers or The Great Wall was so close. Also, just kidding about the second one, but honestly, I was half expecting Matt Damon to show up. Like, how incredible would it be if he voiced Mushu?
How do you like them apples?
In conclusion, from how this video looks up to this point, I sound like a whiny baby complaining that it's not the original. Sure, I can see that too. But there's a lot about this movie that's actually great when you begin to take a step back and just
Fuck your own face!
Not that. While I was watching, I admit that this movie looked incredible. I mean, visually, I don't think there's been a live-action Disney remake that's looked this good. I mean, Lion King looked real, but when I think back, it's all sort of just bland to me. This movie, however, when it wants to, has shots that are extremely well composed and the colors are like nothing you've seen in these remakes. I mean, the reds and the greens pop when they appear, and it's all due to the cinematographer Mandy Walker and her amazing team. Also, the costume design and the makeup are also some of the best I've ever seen, period. I mean, Bina Diggler, you are amazing, and I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. As well as the art and set design teams, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful masterwork. You get so lost in the things that you don't like in a movie, sometimes you'll choose to ignore the truly great details that make that movie up. I thought I'd end on a positive note. You see, I hate these live action remakes for the most part because I so far have not seen one that makes me believe it should exist. I've left a theater disappointed more times from these remakes than I have been satisfied, which just shows that maybe Disney isn't so much the problem as much as we the audience are. Our curiosity is what drives these movies to make money. Money speaks the language that these corporations speak, so when we say we don't want it but we see it anyways, I mean, I'm no rocket biologist, but that's like exactly what they want. Basically what I'm saying is that we, the audience, are in a toxic relationship with Disney Studios and we need to get out. We knew what we were signing up for, but we still accepted a drink from him at the bar because, I mean, he can't hurt you twice. But we did. We did that. I'm not victim blaming. It really sounds like I am, but I am one of them and I know. If they remake another movie, I'm gonna go see it. So maybe I'm part of the problem, maybe we're all the problem. Bottom line, all I know is that we can get out of this relationship together. Thank you. Anyways guys, thank you for watching this video. It was fun to make and stressful to write. I legitimately think I was just ranting for most of it, but towards the end I think I was able to string together how I feel. I think this movie has tons of flaws, don't get me wrong. It's far from being underrated. I also think that the criticism that it gets, it totally deserves. Nevertheless, it's a beautiful looking movie and talented people worked hard behind this to get it made, so kudos to everyone who worked on Mulan. That being said, I can't ignore the whole hashtag boycott Mulan movement that was going on because of the lead actress's choice words towards police brutality in her country. I for one find it pretty nasty. I don't agree at all. However, I think that the best way to boycott this movie is to literally not watch it. I am not telling you how to boycott, but if your incentive to boycott something is to not spend $30, then I say go for it. All that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like and subscribe if you haven't. Much love. I will see you later.
In 1998, they had this promotion for the Disney film Mulan, where they created a new sauce for the McNuggets called Szechuan sauce, and it's delicious.